So, hey guys, today we're going to talk about zone placement. And honestly, zone placement in Master Duel at least, this is RNG. So that's all it is. You don't have to super worry about your zone placements. But I'll show you how to play around essentially everything. So, all right, we have what we need here. Okay. So when we have an empty board like this, uh, we have clearly 5 zones. So if we're playing around Geonator Transverser, right? Geonator, well, we can pull it up here. Geonator, as you can see, points with these arrows, right? So if we summon to this zone, this is safe from Geonator. This zone, the middle zone, is not really safe. Well, is it? No, it's not safe, right? So this zone and this zone are the Geonator zones, right? This is the only like safe zone here. Like, well, this is the safest zone. Technically, this zone and this zone are also safe from Geonator Transverser, but then those middle zones are bad against Anima Adorned, which points directly down, right? Or if you're actually playing around Imduck, kind of the same deal. It points down, so if you had something here or something here, their effects are activatable. So you can't summon here to an extent. So generally, your boss monster, you'll want to be putting it here. Except if you put it here, this actually doesn't play around Longirsu, because Longirsu's arrows actually point to here, here, and here, here. So the only safe spot against Longirsu is actually right here in this zone. But of course, this zone is the Geonator zone. So if your opponent happens to be playing a game like playing Longirsu, and that was the only Link 3 option they had, like they had no hand cards, so they didn't have the option of Unicorn, then sure, you could have won by summoning here by not playing around the Geonator zone, but playing against the Longirsu zone. But a lot of the time, you will never have the information to be able to tell if your opponent is playing like either or, so pretty damn RNG. But just in general, it is a good habit to have to at least try to play around it, like something, right? So one of the habits I actually have that I have developed, so well, let's go ahead and summon this real fast. So let's go ahead, this, and we can do, can we hold Harp Horror? I don't think we have a way to get it out of the hand, do we? No. Okay. So one of the things I've kind of developed is I always use this extra monster zone, like, whenever possible. I'm pretty sure all combos, pretty much, aside from, let me think. Well, no. Well, there are certain reasons not to use this, but assuming I am going first, I will always take up this extra monster zone whenever possible. Why do you guys think that is? So, my end board, this extra monster zone, whenever reasonable enough, I will use it. Well, that's simple. This actually plays around something very specific. That's all it is, so. Let's just, I guess, do this. Sure. So, if I have, for example, Galatea here, and, like, just nothing else, what does this actually play around? Well, this specifically plays around, Ignister zones, because Ignister, Dark Infant at Ignister can only move one direction, and because of it only being able to move one direction, putting monster in the EMZ, specifically in this, on your left will show up as your opponent's right on their screen, right? So they specifically need their right EMZ in order to do the combo to summon the maximum amount of guys off of Dark Templar. Technically, you can still trigger Dark Templar with Dark Infant, right? But since Dark Infant will only move one zone, you only get 2 summons, because if you were to move Dark Infant at Ignister, it does essentially nothing. So that's kind of how that works, right? So okay, let's go hard forward now. Special summon from our deck. Doesn't really matter, I guess. Blue. Actually, it did matter. I was supposed to summon Girsu, but whatever. And then we'll just keep it simple, I guess. Set a card. Babble. I know this hand can do a lot more, but I'm just not feeling it right now, so let's do this. No, link back into Galatea, call it a day. Actually, could we do a bit more? Oh yeah, we can. Whatever. I think either way we still make Galatea. IP is also an option though. Whatever. And and summon, as you can see, Longirsu here. If I summon Longirsu, right? I can summon it in this zone or this zone, and then it's here, 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 here. So this is essentially every single Geonator safe zone is a Longirsu unsafe zone. Well, one can think of it like that, right? But the most dangerous zone, I guess, being like here. And this one, you can actually play around Longirsu if you were to have special summoned in this EMZ. So that's one way to play around this kind of thing. But yeah, in general, though, playing around the specifically the well, with your zone placements in the main monster zones is just pretty rough. It's just not that great in my opinion. But like the thing you can play around the most is simply just not putting all of your monsters in the same column. I don't think there's ever a benefit to doing this, and whenever reasonable, putting your monsters into defense position so they can't be lightning stormed is also decent. So that's also great, but just in general, like if I were to set Fam Knight's Fogblade here, uh, setting it here is okay, right? Because, well, actually it's not that great because if my opponent were playing Mech Knights, then that's like a really good zone for them to summon Mech Knight blue in. Like, for example, if I get, well, let's see, this is another Fogblade, right? So, if I get hit by Red Reboot and then blue is summoned here, I am going to get, like, ridiculously cooked. Even worse so if they start with Girsu, because then Girsu will summon a token here, and that's 3 in a row, so they get 3 searches from deck, and that's not where you want to be. And also, Tiamaton is a card that exists, so let's say, for example, our opponent sets a card, and then boom, Tiamaton, because I set this card here. So, no real reason to set like your background the same like column as your monsters, unless you have like no other choice. If you could play around it, you should. And there is also one other thing, I believe, right? Aside from just Tiamaton and stuff, if we had Imperm, the most efficient zone for Imperm, like considering they literally added an animation to your infinite impermanence, is just like one of the leftmost or rightmost zones because they can affect pendulum scales, where like you can kind of just force your opponent to have to play around that, and they don't really have a choice if they can play around it at all. So yeah, this is the most effective imperm zone, like the leftmost and rightmost ones. So if you were to set imperm, just set it to the leftmost or rightmost, and boom, we're fine. So let's see. I believe the AI actually has some kind of thing where it'll always summon and set in the middle first. So let's do something funny, I guess. We don't have to do anything here. We'll send Harp. Harp will summon Girsu. Okay, we'll get rid of the back row, I guess, because the back row doesn't matter, but that sets up my Mech Knight zones if I was playing more Mech Knights than just Girsu. And okay. Send this. Just in case that back row is something, let's deal with it. Okay. Probably should have made IP instead of second Galatea, but whatever. Get rid of this. Oh, it did potentially matter. Oh, whatever. So here, didn't play around the Geonator zones. Whoa. Let's see what we have here. What are we working with here? Let's do it like this, I guess. Sure. Black Land, Fire Dragon. And you can take Ancient Cloak. Didn't play around Geonator zones. Yep, that's all I can say about that. I mean, we could just lethal here, but it doesn't really matter to me too much. Right? I think we have lethal, at least. Not 100% certain, but we're not far off. Oh yeah, this might be lethal then. It's close. Okay then. Grab Shade Brigandine. There is a trap in my graveyard. Oh, I just discarded it. Okay. And then, if we were to make access code, how much damage is this? Not really lethal. I kind of trolled by making Geonator, I guess, but flexing is required, I guess. So yeah. Yeah, if you're the kind of guy that always summons and puts your boss monsters and stuff in the middle, yeah. This zone is a Geonator zone, so if it comes up, it's your own fault, honestly. Nothing else can really be said here, in my opinion. Guess we Crescendo grab Gyusu. That should be okay. Whatever. This doesn't grab from graveyard. This grabs from literally everywhere else, huh? Well, whatever, I guess. And banish a Galatea so we can recycle it later. That was the one kind of cool thing about like running not just Viscerals, but just like access code in general with Orchist. That was kind of cool. All right, whatever. What was that? The dragon dwelling in the cave. All right. Lethal with Black Land. Great. So in general, just summon to this zone, the rightmost zone, and then these four zones all have risks. So be a little careful of that. If you use these three zones, for example, and this EMZ though, uh, this does not play around Mech Knight specifically, but this plays around anime, uh, or anima, not anime, anima, and then Geonator Transverser. If we were to use just these four zones, we never really have to super worry about like uh anima or Geonator Transverser. And this also plays around um Lankirsu a little bit with these three zones not being really affected, but these two will. So you can be a little careful of that, but Geonator and Longirsu, like honestly, you don't see them that often just randomly, so it it's pretty much like not that likely that you'll have to deal with these. So yeah, it's just RNG if you're dealing with like any of these three. So if you're dealing with Anima, Geonator Transverser, or Longyusu, or perhaps Imduck. So the zone play on this is not going to like super make or break you, but if you at least get into the habit of playing around these zones, if they do come up, you won't randomly get cheesed out of a win, and that's about all. Well, that's what it's all about here, right? So yeah, should be a little bit careful about this, and also I think S-Force might be something you have to play around zones for as well. Okay. And let's see. Each of your opponent's monsters in the same column as one of your S-Force monsters can only target that monster for attacks. And a few other things like this. S-Force justify. Yeah, I don't think you can play around this, right? You can target one effect monster your opponent controls negates effects until the end of this turn. Then you move that opponent's monster to the monster zone, discard points too. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, I don't think you can play around S-Force zones that much. Or like Mech Knight zones, assuming your opponent controls Mech Knights. Or if your opponent's playing Mech Knights, so yeah, not something you can do a whole lot about. So, yeah, that's all I got for you guys today, and, uh, yeah, just remember, so use the, left extra monster zone, and then you wanna use the, in general, uh, rightmost monster zone for, like, your important monsters. Like, if you wanna put Cheng somewhere, that's where you should put Cheng, right? And then you should be fine. You can put in the leftmost zone as well if you're using the EMZ. So, yeah, if you have a card in the EMZ that plays around like Geonator and Anima as well. So, yeah, that's all I got for you guys today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.